All right, everybody, welcome back to the channel. I promised that I was going to make this video and I'm finally making it. I've owned my bZ4X for over a year now, and they redesigned it to the new bZ, and there's a lot that has changed, and I'm going to talk about it because with the experience that I've had with my bZ4X, I feel like this is going to be a very important video for a lot of people that are considering going the electric route with Toyota. And with the new bZ, I think it is a good choice. But with the bZ4X, I wish I would have waited until the new one came out. If you guys are new to the channel, welcome. My name is Lorenzo. I cover Toyota news, reviews, walkarounds, button tutorials, and a lot more. And I work directly inside the dealership, so I'm doing constant dealership stories, giving you guys tips on how to buy vehicles, and doing quick walkarounds and feature breakdowns. So this would be the perfect channel for you if you're a big Toyota fan. All right, guys, so now let's start talking about my current bZ4X. The bZ4X came out in 2022, and it was the first all-electric Toyota vehicle that was announced by Toyota, and EPA estimates on it was 252 according to the press release from Toyota. Now, from personal experience, on a full charge, when I first purchased this vehicle, I did not have 252 miles of range, and that was during the summertime. I had about 230 miles of range. And then what I can say is the biggest change is obviously in the wintertime. Once those cold temperatures hit, especially here in Pittsburgh, we had a very cold winter this past year, and the range on my bZ ended up going down all the way to 180 miles. So the bZ4X in the wintertime definitely loses a lot of range. Now, I do want to tell you guys a little bit of history here, but bZ stands for Beyond Zero. So when Toyota launched the bZ4X in 2022, it was a huge deal because now you see the Beyond Zero badge on a lot of the newer Toyota vehicles. So this was going to be setting the example for what the future has to hold for Toyota. And again, I've had the bZ4X for a while now, and I can say that it is a very smooth ride. It's quiet. It's actually one of the best riding Toyota vehicles I've ever been in, and they lease very well too. They're offering 0% right now, and there's actually some lease cash offers, and there's some good finance offers as well. Again, very smooth ride and plenty of room inside, plenty of acceleration. And I had a lot of room even for my son's car seat in the back. And then the trunk space, good amount of room for groceries, being able to put luggage back there. We were able to put his wagon back there for whenever we traveled places. The one and only complaint that I'm going to have about the bZ4X is the range. And that's where Toyota was getting a lot of backlash. But I'm so happy that they came out with the bZ. So let's talk about it. So now with the new bZ, you have up to 314 miles of range. So that extra 60 miles, it definitely doesn't sound crazy on paper, but in real life, that's a huge difference from having anxiety about range and not really having to worry about it at all. Now, the three biggest things comparing the bZ4X and the new bZ, with the bZ4X, you had the CCS charging, and it was a little bit slower for DC fast charging as well. And you didn't have as great of a network of chargers that you do now on the new bZ, because the new bZ has the NACS charging ports, plus you get the plug and charge, so you don't have to use apps or setups. You just go plug it in. It already recognizes the charger, and it's good to go. And you have the battery preconditioning as well, which is huge, especially for the winter time if you want that battery to be at its optimal temperature. Now, the one thing I really enjoyed when I first got my bZ4X is that they were partnered with EVgo. So you actually ended up getting an entire year of free charging from Toyota through the EVgo. And that was fantastic because I didn't have to worry about paying for it for a while. And I remember once that year ran out and I actually had to pay for it, we were at Target with the wife, and I was like, oh my God, I have to pay for this now. And yeah, it started giving me a little bit of anxiety, but I still don't pay a lot for charging. I live 5 minutes down the street from my dealership. Now, what's interesting about the design differences between the bZ4X and the bZ, the back end did not change whatsoever besides the badging. You no longer have the 4X on it, but then the front end changed. a little bit on the bZ. I think it looks a little bit sleeker. It kind of makes everything line up perfectly versus the bZ4X. Now, before we get into the performance, I do want to talk about the charging adapters that you get. With the 2026, you'll get the standard adapters that allow backwards compatibility with the J1772, which is the CCS stations. And then with the model 2023 and 2025 bZ4X, I actually ended up getting one of the converters to use a NACS charging port. Now, every time I talk about the bZ, a lot of my viewers that are huge fans of these vehicles tell me to mention this, but you do have the support of Apple Maps EV routing through Apple CarPlay. So it's available for all 2023 and newer BEVs. And Apple Maps can now access real-time vehicle information to efficiently navigate iPhone users to compatible chargers on their way to their destination. So I thought I'd mention that. Now let's talk about performance, because this made a huge change for the new bZ. Now you get 50% more horsepower with 338 combined system net horsepower on the all-wheel drive models, up from 214 combined system net horsepower on the previous all-wheel drive model. Now, my current bZ4X has the interior wise, let's talk about how it was designed. You have a smaller 12.3-inch screen. It does have a clean layout, but functionally it's a little bit more basic. Now with the new 2026 bZ, you have a bigger 14-inch screen, better graphics, you have a more modern layout, and you get the ambient lighting, which is really nice. Now, I do want to say something. This is just going to be my personal take on everything. If you currently do own a bZ4X, I'd like to know in the comments below, did you have a far commute to go to work, or were you very close to where you live, or maybe you're work from home? Because the bZ4X would work, especially for people like me, when I only work 5 minutes down the street from my dealership. There's some people that have purchased the bZ4X that have had to travel more than 50 miles a day, and that's where it starts getting a little bit tougher. And the reason why I'm saying this is because it's going to lead into this question. Should you upgrade to the new bZ if you currently own a bZ4X or you own a different electric vehicle overall? The big question is going to be, if you want better range and you want to have more charging convenience and a lot of the amenities that you don't get with the bZ4X, then yes, I would definitely upgrade, especially if you like the battery preconditioning, the Apple Maps EV routing, and just not having to worry about range overall. But if you're mainly driving locally and charging hasn't been an issue, then stick with the bZ4X. And let's not forget, if you currently own a bZ4X, you probably got a heck of a deal when you purchased the vehicle, especially if you leased it, because Toyota was offering, I believe, over $16,000, $17,000 in rebates off of it. So your lease payments are going to be very low. For me, because I work for Toyota, I ended up getting a little bit more incentives from the manufacturer. I ended up getting over $20,000 in rebates, so my lease payments are very low right now. Now, there's a few things here that I want to read right from the Toyota newsroom. The bZ also adds the steering wheel mounted paddle shifters to activate and adjust regenerative braking. So that's a huge thing I forgot to talk about. But then you also have a battery thermal management system, which includes a water-to-water heat exchanger and heating adjustment valve to increase battery temperature. So this is optimized to help DC fast charging speeds in cold weather. So if you're in cold climate, that's definitely a huge thing to have for sure. So honestly, Toyota didn't really change a whole lot, but they changed everything that they needed to change, especially with the battery preconditioning, the range. You get the front radiant heater, which I did not mention earlier. You get 2 wireless chargers in the new bZ now, Apple Maps EV routing, plug and charge, and just a lot more convenience now. Plus you get that horsepower. You get over 100 more horsepower in the new Toyota bZ. Now, if you're considering getting one of the new bZs, let's talk about the different ranges and what trim levels you'd have to buy. So if you want the max amount of range, you get the XLE front wheel drive plus, that has the 74.7 kilowatt battery, and you get 314 miles of range. Then you can get the limited front wheel drive that gets 299 miles of range. You get the XLE all-wheel drive, gets 288 miles of range, and then the limited all-wheel drive gets 299 miles of range. And then the XLE front-wheel drive with the 57.7 kilowatt battery gets 235 miles of range. Now we have to talk about price because Toyota did a huge thing when it comes to the pricing on the new bZ versus the bZ4X. If you were getting a bZ4X back in 2022 and 2023, the XLE front wheel drive was $42,000. And now the starting price on the new bZs is $34,900. So that is a huge difference. Now, I remember when I got my bZ4X, mine's the XLE all-wheel drive, and I had some more loaded up equipment in it. Mine stickered closer to $48,000, and the starting price was around $44,000. So now the starting price on the new XLE all-wheel drive, which is the mid-trim level, which is what most people would usually want, starts under $40,000 at $39,900. Now, when it comes to the safety, Toyota kept everything the same with Toyota Safety Sense 3.0. So you still get pre-collision system with pedestrian detection. You get full speed range dynamic radar cruise control. You get lane departure alert with steer assist, lane tracing assist, road sign assist, automatic high beams, and then you get proactive driving assist. If you guys have any questions whatsoever about the bZ4X or the new bZ, reach out to me, especially if you're considering buying one of them and you have some questions on which one you should direct your attention towards. You can get some really good deals right now on the bZ4X because a lot of people have come off lease or they've sold them, and you can find them on dealership lots or even on websites like Carvana for a lot cheaper than when they were brand new. Now, if you guys want to watch in more detail some reviews on all the bZs, the bZ4X I did a review on, and I also did a 6 months after I owned it video, so you guys can watch that as well. But I also did a review on the new 2026 Toyota bZ and the bZ Limited. So everything is at your disposal here on my channel. You guys can watch it and then make an informed decision yourself. Thanks so much for sticking around. If you guys found this video very informative, make sure to hit that thumbs up. And if you're big Toyota fans, again, make sure to hit that subscribe button so you don't miss the next video. And I also do have a personalized newsletter that I send out every single week on Mondays. So if you want to stay up to date with everything that's going on in the Toyota world, make sure to subscribe to that as well. That'll be linked in the description below. And again, thank you so much for watching.